Billionaire Elon Musk, appointed by President Trump to lead a cost-cutting panel, announced efforts to shut down U.S. aid, calling the agency beyond repair. Musk estimates that the Trump administration can cut $1 trillion from the deficit, citing concerns over fraud. Meanwhile, U.S. aid staff have been told to work remotely as the agency undergoes restructuring. Critics, including Democrat Peter Welch, raises concerns over Musk's control over sensitive government data, adding to tensions surrounding the administration's efforts to reduce government spending.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Now to tariffs, and U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled that the European Union could soon face tariffs after imposing new trade levies on Canada, Mexico and China. Trump accused the EU of unfair trade practices, citing car and agricultural imports, and warned that tariffs could come pretty soon. The EU vowed to respond firmly, while stocks in major European car makers fell up to 6% amid concerns over potential U.S. duties.
We're going to see what happens. It'll happen, but we're going to, we'll see how things work out. It might happen with them, but it will definitely happen with the European Union. I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity, what they've done.
President Trump. European leaders have met today to discuss defense funding, with U.S. President Trump's new tariffs looming over the discussions. The tariffs targeting Mexico, Canada and China begin tomorrow, while European goods are not affected for now. Trump has warned that the EU could be next due to a $300 billion trade deficit. The EU is preparing for potential tariffs and has vowed to respond firmly. Officials are considering boosting energy purchases to ease trade tensions, but recognize that a confrontation with the U.S. is likely. European leaders, including EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, have cautioned that U.S. President Trump's potential tariffs on the EU could lead to a damaging trade war, benefiting China and harming both sides' consumers. Trump's assertion that the tariffs would target the EU following his measures on Mexico, Canada and China have sparked concerns, with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk urging unity among Western allies. Critics, including Germany's Friedrich Merz and French Central Bank Governor François Villeroy de Gaulle, warned that tariffs could backfire, especially in the automotive sector. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has stated that the European Union is strong enough to react to any tariffs imposed by the United States, but emphasized that the priority should be cooperation between trade partners. Speaking ahead of an informal EU leaders summit in Brussels, Scholz underscored that while the bloc can shape its own economic future, the goal remains dialogue over confrontation. Scholz also highlighted the importance of strengthening security and defense, both through NATO and by developing Europe's defense industry.
And this is also true for all these people that have no relationship to the past in Germany.
French President Emmanuel Macron has warned that if Europe's commercial interests are attacked, the continent must assert itself and demand respect. Macron stated that the recent US trade actions are pushing Europe to be stronger and more united. His remarks come as EU leaders brace for potential tariffs from President Trump following his sweeping trade measures against Canada and China. Spanish Economy Minister Carlos Huepo has emphasized the need for European Union unity in responding to US President Trump's tariff threats. Cuerpo urged the EU to protect its companies while ensuring they can compete on equal terms in a globalized market. Trump's recent tariff orders on Canada and China have raised concerns, and the European Union remains very wary of potential US tariffs, despite no clear timeline from the White House. And Luxembourg Prime Minister Luc Frieden calls tariffs bad for trade and advocated for reciprocal measures in response to US tariffs.
But I think tariffs are always bad. Tariffs are bad for trade. Tariffs are bad for the United States. They are bad for those who see tariffs imposed. But the answer to tariffs is to reply with same actions. But that is not the topic for today.
The Prime Minister of Luxembourg there. And Belgium's newly appointed Prime Minister, Bart de Wever, has pledged to increase defence spending, aiming to raise military funding to 2% of the gross domestic product. Speaking at his first EU Leaders Summit in Brussels, de Wever stressed that Europe cannot defend itself alone and must maintain strong ties with NATO and the United States. Meanwhile, EU leaders are bracing for potential tariffs from Donald Trump, imposed sweeping trade measures on Canada and China. Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin warned that protectionism would hurt citizens globally, calling for a constructive EU-US trade relationship.
Avec les États-Unis, je sais que la situation est compliquée et avec le nouveau président.
President Trump acknowledged that tariffs on Mexico, Canada and China may cause short-term pain, but insisted they are necessary to curb immigration and protect U.S. industries. Speaking as he returned to Washington, Trump dismissed hopes for a policy reversal despite planned talks with Canadian and Mexican leaders. Analysts warn the move could shake global markets and fuel inflation. US President Donald Trump has now agreed to pause new tariffs on Mexico for 1 month after Mexico pledged to deploy 10,000 National Guard troops at its northern border to combat the flow of illegal drugs. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum revealed that both nations would begin working on 2 key areas, security and commerce. She added that that Mexico would also take action to prevent the trafficking of high-powered weapons from the United States into Mexico. Following the announcement of the agreement, the Mexican peso, which had been down over 1% against the US dollar, reversed its course and strengthened into positive territory. Prior to the United States and Mexico's announcement to put the tariffs on hold for a month, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum have discussed countermeasures after the US imposed the new tariffs. Canada will impose 25% tariffs on 30 billion Canadian dollars worth of goods starting on Tuesday, with more to follow. Mexico has also ordered measures to protect its economy.